Hello, welcome to History at Home, and my name is Angela, and during this session we are going to be cooking with curators. So please do not try these recipes at home unless you have an adult in the house, okay? So we're also going to learn a bit about fractions. So when we're in a kitchen, fractions are all around us. They help us bake so our baking is successful, or they'll help us with measuring out ingredients to cook with. So a fraction is just a part of a whole. So when we have a 1 cup measuring cup, if we only had this in the kitchen, we could get by. But if we needed 1/4 of a cup, what that means is we would have to kind of mentally divide this cup into 4 parts and try and measure out just 1/4 of the ingredient we needed. And so we might not be precisely right, and sometimes it's really important to try and be as precise as possible, especially when you're baking. So luckily, somebody at one point invented 1/4 or 1/4 cup, and we also have a 1/2 a cup. So if you needed a 1/2 a cup of flour, then you could easily measure it with this cup versus trying to mentally divide this cup in half and hope that you have the right amount of flour. So fractions are really important, and we've included a little fraction worksheet for you to try at home, and I personally find fractions really fun, and I hope you will too. But we want to get back to our cooking. So today I am going to be sharing with you a recipe that I grew up with and we still use today. It's called we call them easy biscuits. I'm sure there's an actual recipe and it has a real name, but what we call it at our house, and we've always called it when I was little, were easy biscuits. So I hope you'll have fun making those with us today. So boys and girls, to make our easy biscuits, we just need 5 ingredients. And the first is flour. So we just need 2 cups of flour. Now, in early settler times, they made a lot of breads and biscuits, and it was a staple of their diet. To get flour in those times, they would grow wheat, and then they would bring that wheat down to the mill, and the wheat would be ground into flour that they could use for baking. Okay, so we have our 2 cups of flour. And then we just add a little bit of baking powder. It does have power. I think it helps it rise. So we just need 3 teaspoons of that, and this is a little teaspoon. And a teaspoon of salt. Now, that's how much it calls for if you want to make this recipe. I usually don't use a teaspoon. I use about, I use a fraction of it. I use about a 1/4 teaspoon. So 1/4 of the amount of salt. I'm just going to mix those ingredients together. Now, we do need wet ingredients, otherwise our biscuits would not be very good. So, we need just a little bit of oil and a little bit of flour. Now, during those early settler times, they wouldn't use oil, they would use lard. So, and lard would be animal fat. So we are going to use a 1/3 cup oil. So you can see again, fractions, this is 2 cups, and I just need 1/3 cup. So if I divided my cup into 3 parts, I would just need that 1 part of those 3. So 1/3 cup oil. There we go. And then we just need 2/3 parts milk. So just put those together. There we go. And that's kind of fun. I don't know if you can see, it's kind of bubbly. And we just pour that in. And just mix it up together. And then if you want, you can roll this out on the table. But usually what I just do is I just stir it all together. and then you actually can knead it. You should actually stir it with a fork. And then I'm gonna go wash my hands again. I'll come back and knead it, and then I'll put it on the tray, and then we'll bake it and we'll see what it turns out like. So I'll be back in 1 second. Okay, boys and girls, so I've kneaded the dough, and now what I'm doing is you just can take a teaspoon. I've made these a lot, so sometimes I don't use a teaspoon, but you just use a teaspoon, scoop up a bit, and you can drop them onto the tray, or you can just form them. And like I said before, I think I said that you can roll them out and use the top of if you have a round cookie cutter, that works. But if you have a really small glass with a really small diameter, you could use those as well. That's always fun. I just find it a little less work to just kind of put them on the sheet like this. And usually we have these with spaghetti, right? So there's a lot of other things happening in the background, and these are a really quick recipe to make. And like I said, people have always been eating some form of bread or biscuit, so it does. I'm not sure how old this recipe is, but bread is a pretty old recipe. So these will cook for 10 minutes, and I will show you what they'll look like when we're done, okay? And I will be sure to share that recipe with you online. Thanks.